Hi guys, welcome back to another video. This is my February wrap up, which will be consisting of 8 books. One which I don't actually have with me physically because I have lent it to somebody because I thought it was that good. So without further ado, I want to kickstart this. I will be looking down at my phone if you see me glance down, because I am going through my Goodreads in the order that I read them and also the ratings that I gave it. I feel like, although February is the shortest month, even with the extra day for the leap year this year, I feel like it's lasted ages and I just kept reading. I did go off my TBR quite a lot, but you'll see that anyway. So the first book I read was the Starlight Watchmaker by Lauren James. This is about an android called Hugo, and he repairs and makes watches just to try and keep himself useful to the college that he's living on the campus for. His main goal is just to keep relevant to the campus, otherwise they end up being discarded and newer models are brought in, or they're just classed as not needed anymore, and nobody actually knows where these discarded androids go. They just know that parts of them get taken out and they don't remember anything, or other androids have gone and just not been seen again. Things start to get very weird when people are bringing back watches when they're not working and they should be. And Hugo usually prides himself on the fact that he can solve any issue with a watch. However, as he's going through multiple problems, it's just not being fixed. Nothing is working, and he starts to realise that the small ball of energy that goes into these watches has gone. Now, a young lad called Dorian, I'm sure that's his name, yeah, Dorian, comes in very angry, very aggressive. He needs this watch for this test, as the school is some sort of weird space age sort of place. And they end up becoming the best of friends. They go on this adventure to find out what's happening to the energy out of the watches, why other people's watches are having their energy zapped from them as well. And when Hugo realises how lonely he is, my heart broke. This gave me all the feelings from the Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams, and I feel like making an android human to an extent is definitely the way to go if you want to hit somebody in the feels, because that was perfect for me. I gave this a 3 stars, I think it was. Yep, it was 3 stars. I wanted it to be longer. I want to know more about Hugo, and I have said I would really like a novel just about Hugo. I don't care about anybody else. I want to know about Hugo. It is very short. It was a very quick read, only 119 pages, so it's very thin, and I think it is classed as a middle grade, which I didn't really know when I first put this on my wish list. But it was another of Lauren James, and after reading The Loneliest Girl in the Universe, I knew I wanted to try a bit more of Lauren James because her writing just seemed to click with me. So that was a really good one. So my second read was The Guinevere Deception, and Guinevere is sent to protect King Arthur from all the magical evils surrounding him. However, things start to be uncovered as time goes on, and we start to realise that maybe that isn't her real reason for being there. I gave this a 2 stars. Purely because I went in believing that it was going to be a retelling of the King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. However, it just wasn't, and even the magical side of things didn't quite hit the standard of what I'm used to reading fantasy wise. It was a bit of a flop for me, unfortunately. I really enjoyed the writing style in general. That was really good, but it was just the story itself just didn't gel with me. I did, however, have so much love for Bronjon and Mordred. They were just fantastic characters, and it really peeved me that they were side characters and I preferred them to the main characters. I do think that I will be giving this a reread at some point. I know there is a second one that has been announced. So knowing what I know now and knowing that I shouldn't expect a retelling, I will probably be trying to give this a reread just before the second book comes out, in hopes that I will enjoy it a bit more now I know what I'm looking at. My third read was my buddy read this month, and that was Beartown by Frederick Backman, and I was buddy reading it with Claire. However, we ended up getting so lost in the book that a lot of the sections we ended up going over, and we finished this really, really quickly. It was captivating, it was quick, easy to read, it was just brilliant. I'd say the first third of the book was a real slow burner, and it was really difficult to keep up with the different perspectives because it just wasn't set out very clearly, although as time went on you sort of picked up on the fact that when it was from a person's perspective and then that person changed, a new name was used. As in, if it was Benji's perspective, it would say Benji said, or Benji did this. So it would just start with a new character's name. So as I picked up on that, it seemed to get a little bit easier, but I didn't feel like you should have to try and work that hard to read a story with lots of different perspectives. There are trigger warnings that I would offer for this. However, I don't feel like giving the trigger warnings at the moment would be a very good idea, because it does give away the storyline. If you decide that you want to give this a go and you read the synopsis and you think, yes, this is for me, feel free to DM me on Instagram or Twitter and I can give you a heads up on some of the trigger warnings. It was quite hard hitting, but I think it was also dealt with pretty well. But yeah, Beartown is a very small town and they are a hockey town. Everything revolves around hockey, and they are hoping that with the hockey team that they have currently, that they will be put on the map if they win the championships. They will get a lot of sponsorships, they will have a new stadium built, and Beartown will become a big town again. However, one night at a party, which is sort of like an after game party, a hockey player does something which puts the status of Beartown at risk. That's as far as I'm going to go with it, because I do feel like you need to go in not knowing any of it. But again, as I said, trigger warnings, there are quite a few. So yeah, I'd really like to be able to say that you can feel free to message me and I will let you know. Beartown was a 4 stars? 4 stars for me. I think the reason it wasn't a 5-star was because of how slow it was to start with. The first third of the book, I was getting ready to DNF it, and I'm really glad I didn't, because it is such a good book. But yeah, I was... ugh. My next book I currently don't have with me, because I enjoyed this book so much. When my friend was talking to me about everything that was going on in her life, I just felt like she needed something, and that something just happened to be this book. I really enjoyed my next read, and that was Sophie Kinsella's My Not So Perfect Life. I cannot think of a better way for me to get into reading contemporaries than this one. It just really, really hit home how hard life can be, and that it's okay for life to be hard as long as you just keep going with it. I have had so many moments that matched this lifestyle. Katie has started a job in her dream place, doing her dream job, and it's in marketing, I think it is. She's in charge of advertising. Well, she's an apprentice at a place in charge of advertising different products, different brands. But she's always wanted to live in London. It has always been her dream to live in London, and when she gets there she realises that things are a hell of a lot harder than she expected them to be. She is living off noodles living off homemade stews that she made at the beginning of the week, and she's just reheating it throughout the week. She has to work out whether she can afford to buy herself lunch or go for a few drinks with the girls, whether she can eat or whether she can live at home, her flat. She continues to put pictures up on Instagram of how perfect her life is, and they are photos of the stream in London that she lives next to, and it's nice to see that when she says that she's put them up on Instagram, she then says, but what people didn't know is the reason I managed to get this photo is because I didn't want to go home that night. Or she managed to take a photo of a nice posh coffee and a nice meal which people had basically left on a table outside a cafe, and she managed to take a picture of it with nobody looking and claimed that it was hers. I really enjoyed the revelation of your life doesn't have to be perfect, and I really think everybody needs to read this book because I think it's so important to realise that you do not need to have the perfect Instagram life. So I gave that one 4 stars, and my next read was a definite 5 stars. This is called Mockingbird, and we follow Caitlin, who lives with Asperger's syndrome, and we see how she's dealing with the loss of her brother in a school shooting. This was so hard hitting but eye-opening at the same time. There were a lot of things that I was sitting there thinking, why are you making this girl do this? Why can't you understand this? She's trying to tell you, why can't you understand this? And I don't know whether that's because I have previous experience with people who have had autism and Asperger's and learning difficulties, but I felt like people weren't listening to her. I just think this is perfect. It explains things from her point of view, and I also liked how the typology throughout the book changed when we were seeing how she was thinking. There were capital letters in the middle of words, there were words beginning with capital letters in the middle of a sentence, but that was how she was thinking, and there were constantly definitions and how you pronounce words because that was how she dealt with it and how she concentrated fully on those words. That was definitely a 5-star read for me. So my next read was actually my book review for the month, and that was Tales of Unexplained Mystery. This is by Steph Young, and I took part in the Dark Room tours, and I put my review up on the 28th of February, so that will now be up on my Bookstagram. I did enjoy this book. I enjoyed the longer stories because the short stories didn't seem that padded out. They were pretty much 3 or 4 pages, and I struggled to connect with the case. Each chapter concentrates on a different case of a death or a abduction, and then it looks into the strange things that were going on before this happened, before this took place, and also the strange things surrounding the actual death of the person. I gave this a 3 stars because, one, I struggled to read it before bed. I have a really overactive imagination, and when I did read it before bed, I ended up having quite a few nightmares, waking up really panicked and just couldn't get it out of my head. I also have a thing about, I don't like unsolved cases. Obviously I knew what I was getting myself into when I read this book, but it really unsettled me, some of them did, that they were quite big issues and they still weren't solved by the police. One I thought should have been looked into more was apparently dropped by police officers, and then I wanted to go on to investigating myself into this particular satanic ritual that was happening in one of the chapters. So that did bring a lot of intrigue into it for me. But yeah, I gave it 3 stars. It isn't a bad 3 stars. I really enjoyed the writing. other than the fact that the chapters seemed to end very abruptly. I obviously realised that there isn't a solid ending because they are unsolved. But it was more so that when I was reading it, it felt like you sort of stumbled onto the end of the chapter before you realised that you got to the end of the chapter. And it was sort of like oh, okay. Oh, we're done. Okay. On to the next one then. But yeah, so if you want to see the full review of this, you can have a look at my Bookstagram, which is linked down below. Then my next read was You by Caroline Kepnes. I love the Netflix series of this. It is, oh, it's brilliant. I really enjoy psychological thrillers. It baffles me to try and see how they justify it to themselves, how they think that everything they're doing is okay. So I wanted to check out the book and I wanted to see whether it was anything like the series, and I was not disappointed. I had this on Audible, but I was also reading alongside when I got 5 minutes, and I think I preferred the Audible version purely because I'm going to pop the narrator's name somewhere on the screen because he was perfect for it. There was a sort of hint of creepiness to his voice, but also you could hear the charm in his voice, and it was just really, really good. I can't actually remember what I gave this, considering it's one of my most recent reads. I gave this a 4 stars. The only thing that I felt it slightly did towards the end was speed up a bit too much, and things just happened too fast for me. But that is a personal preference. I wanted things to be dragged out a little bit longer because maybe I've got some weird thing about wanting to hear how he mentally tortured her in the box, like he did in the series. Maybe that's my issue. But yeah, it was a really good read and I enjoyed Audible just thoroughly. We are now at my final read of the month, and that was The Six of Crows. Again, I listened to this on Audible and read along when I had chance to. Guys, I don't get the hype. I'm really sorry to say it. I feel like everybody else I've spoken to really, really loves this book. And whilst I enjoyed the dynamics of the characters, I really love Nina and Matthias, I just didn't get overly excited about any of it. I like the fact that the characters are kick-ass, and as I said, the dynamic is excellent, but I just didn't get it. I don't get it, guys. However, I did watch Jade's little, I think it was her vlog. It was either a vlog or a wrap-up. But I watched her channel, and she also expressed the fact that she finished Six of Crows and it just was a bit meh for her. So I was quite pleased to hear that somebody else also had the same sort of opinions of, I don't know. So I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars because, again, like I said, the characters really held it for me. I will go on to read Cookie Kingdom, and I know that I have King of Scars on Audible sorted, and I was also told that I should expect a special package in a few days. So I'm hoping that I can continue with this series and get it done, hopefully, by the end of the year. So that is my February wrap up, and it seems like it's been a pretty good month for me reading wise. I haven't had too many low ratings, but you know, I'm expecting it the more I read each month. So have you got any thoughts on any of these books? If you have, I'd really love to hear from you down in the comments below. If you've liked this video, don't forget to press the thumbs up down below and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you in the next video. Bye!